Hey, what is up guys? This is Nishi from MST.TV here, back with another Market Watch episode. So for today we're taking a look at a few more fun cards that are currently trending on the market. Now as we approach the end of the year here, things are definitely slowing down. We have the remote duel YCS this upcoming weekend, but I feel like we mostly know what the meta looks like right now. And of course, Phantom Revenge is still coming out this month, but now it's delayed up until right before Christmas, which does kind of suck. So instead, the cards we're covering for today are a little bit all over the place, with some trending because they're seeing play in the current format, while others might be used in the future. Let's get started. Kicking things off, we have Chimera, the King of Phantom Beasts. So this card is of course part of the retrain of Yugi's Chimera cards, and overall they are really solid. This card requires a Beast and Fiend as material, so you're generally using the new versions of Gazelle and Baphomet. On the field, this card rips a card from your opponent's hand during the end phase, and while it's in the graveyard, you can banish it during your opponent's turn to special summon a Beast, Fiend, or Illusion monster from your graveyard. So this card overall, really strong, making your opponent start with one less card, and for early Chimera builds, this was sort of the default that you'd open with when you were going first. Now the Chimera cards haven't seen too much play recently, but they are looking to see more play this upcoming format with the release of Heka Hands in Phantom Revenge. The Heka Hands are an illusion-based theme, as we discussed earlier this week when we were talking about Nightmare Apprentice, and Heka Hand Chimera seems to be one of the more popular variants that are running around early on, since you have illusion search targets for both themes, and the engines don't really conflict at all. That said, we are starting to see Chimera trending upwards in price. This was originally an ultra rare in Duelist Nexus, then it got a secret rare reprint in the 2024 tins. Now, up until about a month ago, either version was only $2, but we're now seeing either version of the card sitting at $5 to $6 each. The card does also have a QCR printing as well. Those are mostly unchanged, currently still sitting at between $30 and $35. With Chimera, I don't know how likely it is that they'll be reprinted anytime soon. They were never the most expensive deck to put together, even before the reprints came, so they should be pretty straightforward. In terms of meta relevance, I don't think Heka Hands are going to push them over the edge or anything like that, but they should still be a fairly popular rogue tier 2.5 strategy, especially at your regionals or locals. That said, I do think that this is ultimately going to be a hold for now. Much like with Nightmare Apprentice, the card is up in value, but not by a crazy amount. At this point, I'd rather wait to see what additional Heka Hand support is coming in the future, and see if that could push this card's price up even further. Up next, we have Apophis the Serpent. So this is one of the continuous traps that you can summon as a monster. With this one, when you summon it, you also get to set an Apophis trap directly from your deck that you can activate this turn. So this is actually something that's starting to see play in side decks for when you're going first. The idea is that you consolidate any of your two monsters into a Silhouette Rabbit and then set Apophis to your back row. You flip this card up at the start of your opponent's turn and set Apophis the Swamp Deity to your back row, and Swamp Deity, when it's activated, lets you negate the effect of face-up cards your opponent controls up to the number of other continuous traps that you have, so typically just the one because you have Apophis the Serpent face up. So the idea is that this is a free way for decks to have access to an Omni Negate. This format is primarily to stop Dark Ruler no more. Dark Ruler has been a pretty popular spell card over the last few months, sometimes even making its way into the main deck, so having a searchable answer to it is really valuable, especially with something like Solemn Judgment currently being limited to 1. Now the primary strategies that are using this is the different Yummy variants. Since they are weakest to Dark Ruler, they typically have enough extra bodies on the field that they don't mind making a Silhouette Rabbit at all. With Apophis the Serpent, this card actually just came out earlier this year in Maze of the Master alongside the rest of the Odeon cards. Now this card actually was expensive before. There was that time that Odeon actually won a YCS over in Europe, I believe, so all of the cards had gotten a lot of attention back then, so this card had jumped up to about $15 or so. The card quickly settled back down to about $8, but now we all of a sudden see it bouncing back up to just over the $15 mark once again. Now with Apophis, I do think it should be pretty high on everyone's reprint radar. We just had confirmation for Rarity Collection 5, and I would like to think that something like 7th Tachyon would be in there, and this card came out at roughly the same time, so it could be grouped in there as well. This is especially true given that Apophis is starting to see a good amount of play in modern format. That said, I think it's perfectly reasonable to hold on to a single copy just in case you decide to start using it, but it's probably a good idea to move your extra copies before the card does get reprinted. On to the next one, we have Galatea-i, the Orcust automaton. Now this is a relatively new link one for Orcust that single-handedly made them a much stronger deck. You can special summon it using any Orcust monster, and while it's on the field you can discard any card to add a World Legacy monster or the Orcust field spell to your hand. And then if it's in the graveyard, you can banish another Orcust card from your graveyard to special summon this back to the field. So of course, the main reason we're seeing this card trending is because of Orcust. Mitsu Orcust isn't too popular anymore since King of the Feral Imps was banned, and the Fiendsmith variant lost Moon as well. However, especially in online play on Dueling Book and whatnot, it seems that Orcust is actually quite popular and performing reasonably well. This hasn't really translated to the physical card game recently, as we don't see many Orcust topping lists at any sort of events at all recently, but it's interesting that so many people are trying it out. Now beyond Orcust though, it turns out that the RB deck is actually using this card as well. Brute Blues is a Link 3 that requires 2+ machines to make, and it just so happens that Gersu the Orcust Mech Knight and Galatea-i are both machines. So we've seen a few RB lists where players are just using Gersu to send another copy of itself to the graveyard, making Galatea-i using the World Legacy token from Gersu's effect and the Galatea-i to make a machine link to, then banishing the Gersu to bring back Galatea-i, then making Brute Blues. Weirdly enough, this means that a single Gersu gets you to your RB boss monster. Galatea-i was short printed in Battles of Legend Monster Mayhem earlier this year, so it's always been on the pricier side. At first this card was like $20, but it fell to about $7 or so and kind of settled there for a few months. Now the card has jumped all the way back up to the $13 mark, while the Starlights remain pretty steady at about the $70 mark each. With Galatea-i, I do kind of hope that it gets reprinted, though it's only been out for about half a year or so, right? So maybe Konami doesn't reprint it until the latter half of 2026. But Orcust is a pretty popular deck right now as well, so who knows? With this, keep one to have with the rest of your Orcust core, since that's really all you need. With the rest of them, it really depends on if you feel like the deck has potential or could go up more, or it could see more play in the future, or if you just want to get rid of them now and lock in whatever profit you have. Alright, a pretty random one here, we have Mellomellody the Brass Djinn. So this card is a generic rank 3 Xyz monster, but we don't care for its effect at all. Rather, the only thing that matters is that this card is a Light Fiend monster, so it can be used to make Fiendsmith's Requiem. Now Moon isn't in the game anymore, but there are still other extra deck monsters you can make to turn into Requiem. Now it turns out that the Radiant Typhoon cards are actually pretty good for this. They can use Swen and Eldam, two level 3 monsters that don't require your normal summon, to make Mellomellody and then go into the Fiendsmith engine. That said, this is something that apparently Radiant Typhoon Fiendsmith is trying out, but it's also definitely possible that you could simply side in Swen and Eldam and then try to play a pretty minimal Fiendsmith package. You would be able to get a Caesar for free despite the additional bricks, obviously potentially really good. Now in terms of its actual effect, Mellomellody is pretty forgettable, so this card hasn't actually been printed since back in 2014. This was a starter deck super rare, and then it was a common and star foil in a star pack as well. Of course, before this card was only $1 or so, but we've now seen all versions of the card jump up to around the $5 to $7 mark. The supers being about $5 because they are much more accessible, and the star foil rare technically being the hardest version of the card to pull since no one really opens star packs ever. That said, if Mellomellody does start to see a bit of play, I could definitely see Konami choosing to reprint this in an OTS tournament pack as a common or a super, but ultimately, it's going to depend on how much play it actually sees. I know some Malice players are choosing to use Swen and Eldam to make Cherubini and dump Dormouse, so maybe this is something that'll catch on and start to see more competitive use in the future. All of that said, I think this is definitely something to offload while it's currently seeing a bunch of hype. Okay, so this one we'll just touch on quickly. It's Fairy Tail Luna. Now, just yesterday we had some cards revealed for Blazing Dominion, which is the core set coming after Burst Protocol, and in it we're getting some new cards for the Fairy Tail theme. Of course, this includes cards like Fairy Tail Snow, but before this we've just really been getting like one card at a time. This time we're getting a bunch of pieces all at once. Now, it seems that players are expecting Luna to be good in the strategy with the new support. On summon, Luna searches for any spellcaster with 1850 attack, and then it has a quick effect where you can potentially negate the effect of an opponent's face-up monster and bounce it and Luna back to the hand. So essentially, this card lets you search for the new main deck level 4, who can then special summon herself out of the hand for free, so you can then make a fusion or an Xyz play. Of course, this stuff was literally just revealed, so I haven't seen any replays or deck lists or anything like that. My first impressions were the new cards seem good, but not broken, so they probably won't be meta relevant. However, they're definitely really interesting, and the art is cute, so players are naturally going to gravitate towards them. Anyways, this card was reprinted in one of the rarity collection sets, so almost all of its printings are basically just bulk. The one printing that did spike in price is, of course, the quarter century printing, which was literally like $2 before, because no one really even knew why this card was reprinted in the first place. They're now up to around $15 to $20 each, obviously kind of up in the air because the price hasn't really settled down as of when I'm filming this. All in all, it's cool stuff, but probably not going to be meta relevant at all, so definitely going to recommend offloading this card either now within the next week or so while the hype is really fresh, or wait until the set officially comes out here in the TCG. And finally, the last card we'll look at for today is Super Dreadnought Rail Cannon Juggernaut Liebe. So one of the other themes getting support in Blazing Dominion is the Train deck, which basically just aims to make big Xyz monsters and try to OTK you. Liebe is one of the main ways that they try to do that, since you can put it on top of any of your rank 10 Xyz machine monsters, then you can detach a material from it to give it 2,000 more attack points, and it can also attack 1 extra time for each material that it has. So yeah, this card potentially can win you games if you are able to bring it out. Not too much more to say about that. What is interesting, however, is the card's price, especially because the card has 2 different artworks. Now this card was reprinted in one of the rarity collection sets, so if you're just looking for a copy of the card to play with, they're mostly bulk and pretty accessible. However, the QCR original art has gone up slightly from $2 before to being $4 now. The bigger jump is with the alternate art, which was $3 before but is currently sitting at $10 each, as it's only available as a QCR. The thing that we don't really know about yet is if Konami is going to reprint the alternate arts in a way that makes them more accessible, or if these alt arts are going to be locked away with just the one printing forever. I don't think we've seen any of the Rarity Collection alt art QCRs get reprinted anywhere, but it hasn't really been that long, so we definitely could still see it happen. It's just a matter of when. Even though trains aren't likely to be meta, they're still a popular deck with a lot of casual players, so expect people to want to pick the card up. With just the QCR available for the alt art for now, I do think it has the potential to hit like $15 to $20 as we get closer to the release of Blazing Dominion, so if you did manage to pick these up for only a couple of dollars, definitely consider holding on to them for a little bit longer. Alright guys, that's all I have for today's episode. I'm not too sure if I'm going to have a chance to be able to post next week because I do have finals over the next week and a half or so. I am still going to be doing coverage for the remote duel YCS, however, it's going to be my first time doing coverage for the remote events, but I'm just doing it for the Sunday, so hopefully I get to meet a couple of you guys on the features as well. Anyways guys, if you did enjoy today's Market Watch episode, please make sure you let me know by hitting that thumbs up button. Make sure you leave a comment in the comment section down below. Hit subscribe if you haven't already, and until next time guys, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV.